I never thought my own programming skills would save me from losing everything. 5 years of marriage to Jessica had taught me that some people will take what is not theirs. The app I developed during late nights and weekends became her target when our relationship crumbled. She thought she could steal my work and sue me for ownership, but she never realized I'd been quietly protecting myself all along. Let me know in the comments where you are watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button to support more stories of justice served cold. I met Jessica at a tech conference in San Francisco 6 years ago. I was presenting a panel on healthcare software integration, and she approached me afterward with insightful questions that impressed me immediately. With her sharp mind and ambitious attitude, Jessica stood out from everyone else I met that weekend. She worked as a project manager for a competing tech firm, but that just made our conversations more interesting. Your ideas about patient data accessibility could revolutionize emergency care, she told me over coffee. Her eyes lit up when discussing potential applications, and I found myself captivated, not just by her intelligence, but her apparent passion for improving healthcare through technology. We exchanged numbers, and within weeks, we were dating long distance between Seattle, where I lived, and San Francisco. Those first months were a whirlwind of weekend visits, late-night video calls, discussing everything from algorithm efficiency to our favorite hiking trails. Jessica seemed like the perfect match for me. She understood my work as a software engineer and supported my career ambitions. After 8 months, she transferred to her company's Seattle office to be closer to me. I was thrilled. By our 2-year anniversary, I proposed during a trip to Mount Rainier, and she said yes without hesitation. The wedding was everything. We wanted a small ceremony with close friends and family at a rustic venue overlooking Puget Sound. Life seemed perfect, especially when I received a promotion at Horizon Technologies, becoming lead engineer on their medical software team. Jessica celebrated with me, though. I noticed she seemed distracted that night, checking her phone more than usual. Just work stuff, she explained, putting her phone away. They are really pushing for results on the Thompson account. Small changes began appearing in our relationship after the first year of marriage. Jessica suggested we consolidate our finances for simplicity. She wanted access to all my accounts and questioned my spending habits. $20 for lunch is excessive, Rod, she would say, reviewing our joint credit card statement. We need to be smarter if we want to buy a house next year. It seemed reasonable at first. Her background in project management made her naturally organized with finances, but when she questioned the subscription services I used for coding resources, I started feeling micromanaged. Do you really need 3 different programming platforms? Seems redundant, she remarked one evening. Around this time, I began developing a mobile application during my free hours. It was a passion project aimed at helping emergency room doctors quickly access crucial patient information during time-sensitive situations. The idea came after my father nearly received incorrect medication during an ER visit when his records could not be accessed quickly enough. Another late night with your little app, Jessica would say, leaning against the doorframe of our home office around midnight. When are you going to work on something that actually makes money? Her dismissive tone hurt. But I believed in the project. Every weekend, I declined social invitations to work on it. Jessica grew increasingly irritated with my dedication. We never see Thomas and Kate anymore, because you are always coding, she complained. People will think we are having problems. Then came the first sign something was truly wrong. I borrowed Jessica's laptop one morning, when mine needed a system update. A message notification popped up from someone named Adam. The preview showed enough for my stomach to drop "miss you already." Last night was. I clicked it before thinking and found myself in a conversation between Jessica and her former boss. The messages were unmistakably intimate, referencing hotel meetings and inside jokes. There were even complaints about me. He is obsessed with that stupid app. Does not even notice when I'm gone. When I confronted Jessica that evening, showing her the messages, her face went through a series of expressions. First, shock. Then anger, finally settling into defensive indignation. You went through my private messages. That is a complete invasion of privacy, Rod, she deflected. They popped up on screen. Who is Adam? I demanded. My former supervisor. We are working on a project together, she said, snatching her laptop. Those messages are just friendly banter. You are overreacting because you feel guilty about neglecting our marriage for your app. I wanted to believe her explanation. Maybe I was being paranoid. I tried to save our marriage by spending more time with her, cutting back on app development hours, and planning weekend trips. Jessica seemed appreciative, becoming more affectionate and engaged in our relationship again. But sometimes I would catch her texting late at night, turning her phone away when I entered the room. Despite my efforts to repair our marriage, I could not abandon my app completely. It had progressed beyond a simple concept to a working prototype that showed real promise. A local hospital agreed to test it in a controlled environment, which meant I needed to finalize certain features on a tight deadline. "I thought you were cutting back on this," Jessica said when she found me working at 3 a.m. "This is different," I explained excitedly. "Seattle Memorial is going to test it next month. This could be a breakthrough, Jess." She looked at me strangely, asking detailed questions about the testing arrangement and timeline. At the time, I interpreted her interest as renewed support. I was wrong. Jessica began traveling more frequently for work, sometimes just overnight, other times for 3 or 4 days. Communication during these trips was sporadic at best. She would blame poor reception or packed meeting schedules for her unavailability. One afternoon, while doing laundry, I emptied Jessica's suitcase pockets and found receipts from restaurants and a hotel in Portland. The curious part was that she had told me her conference that week was in San Diego. When I checked our credit card statement, I found more discrepancies: hotel charges in cities. She supposedly never visited dinner receipts for 2 at expensive restaurants on nights she claimed to be working late. The suspicion gnawed at me until I made a decision I never thought I would make. I hired a private investigator named Marcus. His fees were steep, but my need for certainty was stronger than my dwindling bank account. These situations are never easy, but knowledge is power. Marcus told me when we met at a coffee shop, far from my usual haunts. "I will be discreet, but thorough." 2 weeks later, Marcus delivered a manila envelope to me. Inside were photos of Jessica entering a hotel with a tall, well-dressed man. I recognized from her company profile as Adam, her former boss. The timestamp showed a Wednesday afternoon when she had told me she was at a client meeting in Bellevue. Additional photos showed them at dinner, holding hands across the table and kissing in the hotel lobby the following morning. I felt physically ill, the ground seeming to shift beneath my feet. The evidence was undeniable. For hours, I sat in my car, photos spread on the passenger seat, trying to decide what to do. When Jessica returned home that evening, I was waiting in the living room, the photographs arranged on the coffee table. "What is this?" she asked, stopping abruptly when she saw them. "You tell me," I said, my voice surprisingly steady despite the hurricane inside me. Jessica stared at the photos, then at me. For a moment, I thought she might deny everything again, but instead her expression hardened. "Fine. Adam and I have been seeing each other. He appreciates my ambition. He does not disappear into his computer every night chasing some healthcare app pipe dream." "How long?" I asked. "Does it matter? 8 months, maybe longer." She crossed her arms. "Our marriage has been over for a while, Rod. You just refused to see it because you were too busy playing tech hero." The argument that followed was ugly. Jessica blamed me for emotional neglect. I pointed out her lies and betrayal. By midnight, she had packed several suitcases and announced she was staying with a friend. 3 days later, I received divorce papers from her attorney. Jessica wanted half of everything, including our house savings and most shockingly partial ownership of my application, claiming she had contributed substantial conceptual and financial support to its development. I knew this was completely false. She had never shown real interest in the app beyond criticizing the time I spent on it. Then came the character assassination. Jessica contacted mutual friends with stories about my supposed controlling behavior and neglect. She told my parents I had developed an unhealthy obsession with work that destroyed our marriage. Several friends stopped returning my calls, apparently having chosen sides. The worst discovery came when I was organizing my home office after Jessica moved out. My backup hard drive was missing, the one containing early versions and documentation of my application. A cold realization washed over me. This was not just about divorce assets. Jessica was after my intellectual property. My suspicion was confirmed when a colleague at another hospital mentioned seeing a presentation about an app remarkably similar to mine. The presenters, a new healthcare startup founded by Adam Walsh and Jessica Morgan. They mentioned accelerating to market by fourth quarter, my colleague said. The interface looked almost identical to what you showed me last month. The betrayal cut deeper than the affair. Jessica had not just cheated on me. She had stolen years of my work, my passion project, born from my father's near-miss medical emergency, and now she and her lover were attempting to profit from it. The lawsuit arrived on a rainy Tuesday morning. The document stated that Jessica Morgan and AdaptMed Solutions, Adam's newly formed company, were suing me for copyright infringement, claiming I had stolen intellectual property developed during Jessica's employment at her previous company. They demanded full rights to the application, all associated code and documentation, plus $200,000 in damages. I read the filing multiple times, each review making my blood pressure rise further. The document contained blatant lies. Jessica claimed she had conceptualized the core functionality during our marriage and that I had merely implemented her ideas. She stated that early development occurred on her laptop using her resources. Adam provided sworn statements that Jessica had discussed the concept with him professionally before I began development. My hands shook with anger and fear. This was not just about money. It was about my reputation in the industry and years of hard work. If they succeeded, my career might never recover from allegations of intellectual property theft. That afternoon, I contacted several attorneys before finding Terry Thompson, a specialist in intellectual property law with experience in the technology sector. When we met the following day, I brought everything I had: documentation, early sketches, development logs, and the story of my app from conception to current state. Terry listened intently, taking detailed notes. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair with an expression I could not quite read. "Did you register your copyright for the software?" he asked. "Yes," I replied. "I filed the necessary paperwork about 8 months into development, long before Jessica and I had problems." Terry's eyebrows rose slightly. "And the patent application? Filed provisionally 14 months ago. Full application submitted 10 months ago," I said. "I have all the documentation." A slow smile spread across Terry's face. "And I assume you have time-stamped development logs, commits, and documentation predating their claimed ownership." I nodded, pulling out a notarized development journal I had maintained since the project's inception. Every major decision, feature, addition, and code chunk is documented here with dates. Plus, all my GitHub commits are time-stamped, and I backed everything up to a secure cloud server separate from any home devices. Terry actually laughed. "Mr. Williams, most clients come to me in a panic without having done any protective measures. You have done practically everything right." For the first time in weeks, I felt a flutter of hope. "So we can fight this. Fight it. We are going to demolish their case. But there is more we can do." Terry outlined a strategy that went beyond merely defending against their lawsuit. "This is where we use what I call malicious compliance. We will not just prove you own the intellectual property, we will countersuit for their theft, attempted misappropriation, and business interference." Over the next few weeks, Terry and I built our case meticulously. We discovered Jessica had copied portions of my code almost verbatim, making only superficial changes to function names and comments. Forensic analysis of the application they had begun showing to investors revealed unmistakable similarities to my proprietary algorithms. More damaging still, we found evidence that Adam had used company resources from his former employer to develop their competing product, while still employed there, a clear violation of his employment contract and possibly corporate espionage. "Their lawsuit is not just baseless, it is a smokescreen," Terry explained during a strategy session. "They sued you, hoping you would settle quickly rather than fight, giving them legitimacy they desperately need. Instead, we are going to use their own legal action to hang them." On the day of our first court appearance, Jessica and Adam arrived with their attorney looking confident. That confidence visibly faltered when Terry presented our counterclaim, complete with comprehensive evidence of my prior ownership and their theft. The judge, an older woman with sharp eyes and little patience, for Games reviewed our documentation carefully. Your Honor, Jessica's attorney argued my client contributed substantially to the conceptual framework during their marriage under community property laws. Counselor, the judge interrupted. The evidence shows Mr. Williams registered this intellectual property independently with documentation predating any claimed contributions by Mrs. Williams. Furthermore, the timeline of events suggests a deliberate attempt to misappropriate the property after the marriage deterioration. The proceedings grew increasingly uncomfortable for Jessica and Adam as Terry methodically dismantled their claims. Their attorney requested multiple recesses to consult with them as their case unraveled. The final blow came when Terry presented evidence that Adam had used his corporate email to send himself copies of presentations I had shared with Jessica, proving corporate resource misuse and their premeditated plan. Your Honor, Terry concluded, we ask that you not only dismiss their frivolous lawsuit but grant our counterclaims for intellectual property theft, business interference, and legal fees. 3 weeks later, the judge issued her ruling. Jessica and Adam's case was dismissed with prejudice. My countersuit was successful on all counts. They were ordered to cease all development of their competing application, return all materials related to my intellectual property, and pay substantial damages, plus all my legal fees. The aftermath was swift and far-reaching. Adam's former employer initiated an internal investigation upon learning he had used company resources for his side venture. He was terminated for violation of his employment contract and corporate ethics policies. Several investors who had considered funding their startup publicly withdrew, concerned about the legal and ethical implications. Jessica, now without a job or startup prospects, faced not only financial repercussions but professional ostracism. The tech community in Seattle is smaller than many realize, and word traveled quickly about the attempted intellectual property theft. The months following the lawsuit were a period of rebuilding. With the legal battles behind me, I refocused on developing my application. The hospital that had agreed to the initial trial remained supportive, and the resulting data showed promising improvements in emergency response times when using my software. My bank account had taken a serious hit from the divorce and legal proceedings. Despite the judgment in my favor, money that Jessica was ordered to pay would take time to collect. I moved from our house to a small apartment, closer to the hospital, cutting expenses wherever possible to reinvest in the application. Friends who had distanced themselves during the divorce began reaching out after the truth emerged. Thomas, my oldest friend from college, showed up at my apartment one weekend with beer and an apology. I should have known better than to believe what Jessica was saying, he admitted. I am sorry I was not there when you needed support. Rebuilding trust was difficult, but I recognized that Jessica had been manipulative with everyone, not just me. Slowly, my social circle reformed stronger for having weathered the storm. The most unexpected development came through Dr. Sarah Lawson, the emergency physician who had championed my application at the hospital. What began as professional consultation meetings gradually evolved into coffee discussions about more than just the app. Sarah understood the passion behind my project because she lived the problems it solved every day. What you are building could have prevented 3 serious medication errors I have seen. This month alone, she told me during one of our meetings. Her genuine appreciation for the work meant more than any technical compliment I had ever received. 6 months after the court victory, I received interest from several medical technology investors. The publicity from the lawsuit had unexpectedly spotlighted the application's potential. With new funding secured, I established my own company, Emergency Response Technologies, with the application as our flagship product. Today, nearly 2 years after Jessica walked out, my application is implemented in 23 hospitals across the western United States. Sarah and I have been dating for over a year, building a relationship based on mutual respect and shared values. The company continues to grow, adding features requested by the medical professionals who use it daily. The experience taught me painful but valuable lessons. I learned to protect my work through proper legal channels from the very beginning. I discovered the importance of maintaining documentation and evidence, even when it seems unnecessary. Most importantly, I learned that true partners support your dreams rather than undermine them. Looking back, I sometimes wonder if Jessica realizes what she lost, not just the lawsuit, but the chance to be part of something meaningful that actually helps people. Her attempt to steal my work ultimately cost her everything: her reputation, career opportunities, and relationships. Meanwhile, I lost a toxic marriage but gained a successful company and a chance at genuine happiness. I often think about the fine line between justice and vengeance. Was I seeking fair compensation for my stolen work, or was I driven by a desire to see Jessica suffer consequences? Perhaps it was both. But I know that my primary motivation was protecting something I believed could save lives. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have settled to avoid the stress of a court battle, or fought to protect what was rightfully yours? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more tales of justice served. And if you know someone dealing with intellectual property issues, share this video as a reminder of the importance of proper documentation. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, protect what you create, because not everyone will respect your hard work.